And so, folks, we come to the end of another season's campaign. The Spanish Winter Championship will conclude at the end of this race. The Euro Cup 3 competition drawing to a conclusion after what has already been a very exciting duel all the way through the season. If you weren't with us yesterday, you won't have known that the championship title has been wrapped up after a fantastic display of great racecraft all the way through the season from the United Arab Emirates superstar for high-tech, Kiano Al-Azari, clinching his first single-seater championship and becoming only the 6th driver as a member of the Alpine Junior Academy to win the title in a major single-seater category, and the first driver to do so for 2 years, and certainly the first driver for 4 years at the high level that he is currently running. So, it's been a fantastic weekend already for Kiano Al-Azari, who has yet to finish a race in the Euro Cup 3 category of the Spanish Winter Championship outside the top 5. And here at Motorland Aragon, he's going to have a job to do that in the last race of the season. Qualifying this morning was chaotic and unpredictable, with many drivers losing their lap times due to the excessive use of track limits after the very ferocious winds that we had this morning. If anything, they've got more intense over the course of the day, so this final race of the season could be one of the most chaotic yet. I'm Jake Sanson, great to be with you in the commentary box one more time in the 2026 Spanish Winter Championships as we gear up for the third and final race of this weekend, officially known as Race 2 in Motorland Aragon. We had Race 1 and the sprint race yesterday before Race 2 here today, and pole position is a very different candidate for this race after qualifying this morning. Enzo Tanvanitschkul of Thailand for the Campos Racing Team, the Red Bull Junior, clinching his first pole position as a Euro Cup 3 driver. So, without further ado, let's talk up the prospects of the young Thai with my colleague down in pit lane, Alex Garcia. This is going to be a fabulous opportunity for the Red Bull youngster, who we saw twice yesterday go from outside the top 15 to charge back to 5th position on the racetrack in 2 races, one of which was half an hour, the other of which was 20 minutes. The boy can do no wrong, but can he win from the front in the same manner that he charged through in the 2 races yesterday?
Hello, Jake. That is the big question, of course, because as you were saying, Enzo Tanvanitschkul was definitely one of the big stars of Saturday with those 2 recovery races from the back of the grid from 21st and 20th place. He recovered to 5th on both races. After a penalty, one of those 5ths became a 6th place. And for those who follow us on social media, they might have seen that my hot take of the day yesterday was basically that I could not fathom Enzo Tanvanitschkul. How could a man starting from outside of the top 20, 2 races, do so well in the races? Well, it seems that the Thai driver has definitely read those comments, has read what my thoughts were on his skills, and he said, you know what, you're kind of right, I need to start from the top of the grid. And so he did, starting from pole position. I think he should be the biggest candidate today.
Now, we should point out that qualifying this morning was chaotic, not because of the rain, but because of the winds. It was very high indeed over the course of the qualifying session, and it meant that only 13 of the 28 drivers were actually able to set a representative lap time. All the other times were deleted due to excessive track limits, and that's definitely put quite a few of the big names, Alex, on the back foot going into this season finale.
Exactly, and to be fair, I was looking at most of the sectors that those drivers who did not have valid lap times have, and from my numbers here, I could not see any lap time that was actually quicker than Enzo Tanvanitschkul's in any case, which means that he was quick through and through, and it was not just a case of some other driver missing a lap time because their times were deleted. It was more of a case that he was truly fast. That said, only 13 drivers setting up a lap time that was valid. Perhaps it is not fair that I say it this way. The way the regulation works in Euro Cup 3 Spanish Winter Championship means that if you do enough track limit violations, even your legal lap times get deleted as well, which is what happened on today's session. And this is why so many of those drivers ended up losing their lap times, not because they only scored invalid lap times, but because too many track limit violations ended up just deleting all the good job that they had done so far. It is unfortunate, but this is also a lesson to learn. You need to keep it in the black stuff. I'm sure that most of them have the lesson down now.
Well, absolutely, but it's a little too late to do anything about this particular race in terms of a decent grid position. But it affected everybody up and down the length and breadth of the grid, from the front runners to the tail enders, to the extent that the newly crowned champion Chiara Alazzari will be starting this race from 14th on the starting grid, and that's going to make things very difficult for him to charge through. Enzo Tamanichkul on pole position, as we've already mentioned. Chris Alfaghali of Lebanon alongside him as the leading rookie for Drivex. Another great chance for him to convert that into a solid result. Then we've got James Zigotzi, the man who fought Chiara Alazzari for the title right to the bitter end, in third on the starting grid, ahead of the MP Motorsport drivers, Gianmarco Pradel, who won the race yesterday, and René Lammers, who came through for a 5th position. Then Kasper Stuka finally getting a decent result for qualifying in P6. Stefan Bostenjev ahead of Alex Powell. And then Chuyan Pu and Yanis Stephen Haydens to round up the top 10. The only other 3 drivers that got lap times in were Hayter Delagnol, Rafael Barad and Gino Trapper. So that means that we've got more than half the field trying to fight their way back out of position. We've got Alazzari, Harrison, Eichmanns, Vizzarono, Hosenroder, all sorts of great talented drivers, including Thomas Strauven and Santino Panetta, all trying to make their way back into contention. This could be one of the strangest races that we've had all the way through the course of this season. None the least because a lot of drivers are out of position. It's going to be a long race, so we've got 30 minutes plus the additional lap. And the track temperatures are low once again. It's 13 degrees Celsius air temperature with 23 degrees Celsius for track temperature. And those winds again, Alex, are even more ferocious than they were the same time yesterday for the opening race. So yet again, the drivers are going to be on the knife edge of trying to make sure they've got the balance between tyre pressure and aerodynamic setup.
Exactly, Jake. I'm just looking around myself here, and I can see here to my right the safety car driver and co-driver, and they're just hugging themselves from the cold and the wind that's happening in here in the main straight. I can imagine that the drivers that are going out on track as well, they'll be concerned with that wind, which of course has been the main problem this morning. And I am fascinated by those first 2 rows, and I have to say the reason is because I think those drivers are generally all very, very hungry, particularly hungry, I would say. Of course, our pole sitter wants to complete this weekend with a fantastic win. That's the only way that he can be truly happy. But I can imagine Chris Fegali also wanting to show that speed that we have seen too many times with too little lag. And how about James Zigotzi? I can tell you, I talked to him and he was as cool as a cucumber. He was saying to me, you know, I asked him, what's it looking like? Can you make it? I said, why not? I'm starting from P3, so that's always an option. And when you see so many different drivers with different personalities, different takes on the race, you know that's going to be a fun one. And how to forget those fast guys who are just further behind. I'm just watching right now Chiara Alazzari going on track as the cars go through down the pit lane and into the track. They'll be lining up behind me in just a few minutes. There's so many things to keep an eye on. Jake, I hope that you have as much an attention span as possible, because I think today is one of those days where it's going to challenge us.
Thank goodness I had a bite to eat in between races. That's all I can say. There's a little bit more energy than perhaps there would have been otherwise. But let's talk about the roundup of these 3 weekends. Obviously, we've been pitching for the Spanish Winter Championship title. We've got 1 race to go, which is a bit of a free-for-all with the championship already decided. But we have to keep coming back to this. The Dallara 326, this new race car, drivers have been so complimentary of it, so excited about what this car is going to give them in terms of the tools and the ingredients necessary to keep climbing the ladder. We've seen so many drivers from the years already from Euro Cup 3, Esteban Masson climbing forward, Christian Ho going forward, Bruno Del Pino going forward into the world of Grand Prix racing from here. And this is just another great stepping stone for them. But this is also a chance to really celebrate what Dallara has actually achieved here on the single-seater ladder. It's going to be very difficult to try and replicate Formula One conditions in these little cars, but I have to say what Dallara and Engine 101 and Cosworth and all of the guys at Tom's have done is demonstrate that it not only is possible, but we now have it.
Exactly, and it is true perhaps that the current 2026 spec Formula One cars are completely different from everything else on the planet. But the truth is that this machine that we have here, the Dallara 326, is probably the closest that we had in terms of car behavior to what Formula One was last year. A lot of downforce, very agile, a lot of cornering speed as opposed to perhaps a straight line speed, which is maybe a bit more what we see in FIA F3. But what's clear, and this is the most important thing to me at least, is that this car is a great school. It's the car that teaches you how to drive quick. And proof of that is that the drivers who used to race on the, back in the day, 314s and 316s, they became very good drivers in Formula One. I can think of Max Verstappen, I can think of Charles Leclerc, I can think of George Russell, and I can think of many drivers who are now some of the main stars in Formula One, who came from what is essentially the previous version of what we're having here. And if Euro Cup 3 was always a good series to come from, learn and grow, now with this Dallara 326, it's improved by leaps and bounds. So look forward to the future, because some of the guys who are going to be lining up on the grid here could be in Formula One as soon as in 3, 4, 5 years.
That's very true. We actually heard from Keanu Alazari yesterday, post-race on social media. He was talking about how much he loves driving this car. It's an old school feel. It really is a fantastic car to work with and to develop and to adapt to. And that's what this whole 2026 motor racing season out here is all about. It's trying to understand and figure out more about what this car can do as it continues to progress. As you can see on your screens, folks, the pit lane is open. All those of you who've been watching the Spanish Winter Championship from the start of the season and are a little bit sad it's all over, don't despair, because we have got more great race action coming up over the course of the season. If you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for the F4 Spanish Championship, you won't miss a moment of the F4 season, and on the Euro Cup 3 YouTube channel as well, you will also not miss a moment. Right, we've got this 30 minutes plus 1 lap to go. So many drivers out of position. One guy I actually want to talk about that we barely mentioned all the way through the course of this season, who finally gets a shot at the top spot, and that is Kasper Stuka. He has been conspicuous by his absence over the course of this Winter Championship. The late deal that he put together with Technicar, but we were expecting a lot more from him. Don't forget, last year Kasper Stuka was fighting for podiums and victories. It's been a really difficult start to the year for him, but it would be nice for him to finish at least this Spanish Winter Championship campaign with a decent result that perhaps he can then carry into the main body of the season.
I think the easiest and perhaps the most entertaining way that we could put it would be saying, well, maybe the Euro Cup 3 side of the garage is taking some of that E4 energy that went so well for the team this morning in qualifying and in the race. But to be honest, I think it might be one of those situations, we've talked about this before, Jake, where it's important to have the whole team pushing in the same direction. From what I've heard, the problem with Technicar and Kasper Stuka is that there was not necessarily a very clear vision on how to make things happen. If the driver has one idea on how to set up the car, the engineer maybe has another idea, and there's no clear understanding between the team engineer or engineers and the driver, it's difficult to make things happen. It seems that things are starting to coalesce a little bit, and they're starting to see the way where they all of them are happy with it. And this great position is probably a first sign of that. We know Kasper's quick. If the car's quick, he'll deliver. The key is how to make that car quick. And when you're with a new team, there's always that adjustment period that you need to go through. You need to work through things together, you need to teach them and learn from them, and then once things are lined up, then the results start to come. Hopefully this is the first step in that direction, really.
It certainly would be a good position for him and all of his fans back home in Poland to give him something to spur him on to the start of the season, which of course is not that far away. Only on the first weekend in May do we start the Euro Cup 3 calendar championship season. And of course, in the 2026 campaign, we have a unique position this year, Alex, because every single race on the championship in the calendar, as confirmed at the moment, is going to be visiting a circuit that has hosted a Grand Prix in the last decade. It is absolutely perfect in terms of preparation for all of these drivers. Going to Paul Ricard, to Silverstone, to Imola, to Monza, of course to Catalonia at the end of the season, to the Hungaroring and to Portimao. Such a busy calendar, but it will teach the drivers so much in terms of their preparation to get up to the big show.
And very varied as well, and this is perhaps what's most important about a calendar. Yes, they're all big circuits, they're all very renowned racetracks where big stories and big races and big duels have happened, but they are all very different. If you go to Monza, the feeling that you're going to get is completely different from what you're going to get in Hungaroring or, of course, Silverstone, even though some of these tracks, of course, are very quick for the Dallara 326, but they are still places where you can learn different tricks of the trade, so to speak. And I like that because this is one of those calendars that when you look at it from the perspective of a fan, you're always excited about it. But I can tell you that from the perspective of a driver, they're just as excited because they're setting to be in the big stages of Europe, which is, of course, what Eurocup 3 should be all about.
I've got a feeling that this season is still going to give us a lot of twists and turns, a lot of dynamicism, a lot of changes through the year. And the calendar really reflects that there is a clear lineage to making sure that we go to racetracks where you genuinely can race. And this new car, the Dallara 326, actually does give me a lot of excitement with particular note to some of the circuits on the calendar. We look at Imola, we look at Hungaroring, we look at Catalunya, circuits that have a bit of a tradition in Formula One of being difficult to overtake on. But we said that, didn't we, 2 weeks ago at Jarama, that this is a circuit that's not easy to get overtaking moves done on. And the car, well, it was the star of the show. It proved that it can be done. So looking at the variety and the twists and turns we've got on this calendar, I'm really excited for what the Dallara 326 is going to cook up. Pole position on our screens, Enzo Tarvanitschkul, the man who is based nowadays in Marbella in Spain, but originally, of course, comes from the nation's capital, Bangkok in Thailand. What an opportunity for him. He did such a great job last year as a contender in Eurocup 3 for the first time. Ran in the midfield. He's been part of the Red Bull program for a year now. A victory today would certainly put him right into the vanguard for the discussions for Formula 3 in 2027 before the main Eurocup 3 season has even started, Alex.
Exactly. This is usually the way you want to do things with Red Bull. You don't want to wait until the last minute to cook up those good results. You need to start getting them as soon as you can. And we know that a second year in Eurocup 3 being part of the Red Bull junior team should be the year where he has to start showing those great results. He certainly seems to have a good support from the brand, which always helps. Of course, being a Thai driver is important in terms of marketing, but it is not just a matter of nationality. Don't be mistaken. Enzo Tarvanitschkul can be as quick as anybody when things are lined up for him. Today they seem to be. Even when they're not, he is able to show some recovery races which seem almost impossible to understand. I'll admit, I couldn't almost understand them yesterday, but hopefully we'll be able to understand what he's able to do today. Maybe a win. He'll definitely be aiming for that.
We have breaking news before the race has even begun, Alex. One car has not come around. It's James Igotzi, would you believe? His car has broken down on the back straight on the approach to turn 16, and it looks to me as though he will not take the start. The 3-minute board has just gone up. And that is catastrophic for James Igotzi going into the last race of the season. He's had such bad luck this weekend, despite taking the win in race 1 yesterday. Lost the championship to a puncture that put him out of the race altogether. And now he will not take the start of the race from P3. How much more dramatic could this get, Alex, for poor James Igotzi? He's now being towed in.
This is so unfortunate. I was just the moment they turned around from my position in the main straight, I saw that there was a car missing, a crucially red car missing, and one has to wonder, what if he didn't have that bad luck in Portimao in last race of the weekend? What if he didn't have this bad luck here? Would he have been able to challenge Keanu Lazzari for the title? Well, at the very least, he would have been alive in that fight, probably until right now. But well, this is also, we have to understand, this is also, in many ways, the prologue to the regular season. And I think if we ask James Igotzi if he wants to have problems now or later down the year, he'll say, well, I don't want to have problems, it's better to have them now rather than in 6 months' time.
Yeah, it's devastating for his chances in this race, but with the championship already confirmed and decided, I guess it's the lesser of two evils for James Igotzi. He certainly doesn't want this to occur when he's battling for the victories at Paul Ricard or Monza or Silverstone or Hungary. it makes much more sense for it to occur now. If he just gets the bad luck out of the way in this part of the season, then at least he can work his way forward. Now, the big question below is going to be, can they A, escort him back to the pit lane, which now they've done, and B, can they get him started again in pit lane? Because, of course, he'll miss the grid now because we've got the 15 seconds board. So can they start the car and get him out there for the race from the pit lane? That's the only way that James Zagotzi can salvage something from this race. We're about to go around, green lights on. What drama, Alex. We never thought it was going to get that exciting even before the race began. But this is Euro Cup 3 in the Spanish Winter Championship 2026. I have a feeling this is going to be an absolute ripper of a race to finish the season.
As you said, Jake, motorsport is this way. Sometimes things that you don't expect happen, and they often end up happening. So let's roll it for the last time this season.
Gracias, amigo. So, into the battle we go then, one last time this season, sadly without the presence of James Zagotzi on the grid after the reconnaissance lap saw him break down on the back straight. Whether he'll start from the pit lane or not remains to be seen, but for the moment it is Enzo Tarvanichkul and Chris Elfagali on the front row of the starting grid. Then Gianmarco Pradel will be alone on the second row. Then René Lammers, Kasper Stuka together on row 3. Stefan Bostangiev and Alex Powell will be on the fourth row. And then it is Chuyan Pu of China alongside Yannis Steven Haydens. There is the championship standings. Imagine if Keanu Alazari had not managed to seal the title yesterday. That's what Night Avenger points out on the YouTube stream. James Zagotzi, just so much bad luck this weekend. And there's a genuine opportunity here for René Lammers to work his way into second position in the Drivers' Championship. If he gets himself a first or a second place finish, then there's a very solid chance that James Zagotzi is going to lose that vice champion status. So it's disastrous, but at least it happens in the last race of the Spanish Winter Championship when the deal's already done, rather than when he's in the midst of fighting for the title in the main body of the season in Euro Cup 3. That calendar is an exciting one, by the way. So like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for the Euro Cup 3 social media channels and the YouTube stream, because on the first weekend of May we start the Euro Cup 3 title fight with this fantastic car on the Circuit Paul Ricard Le Castellet as guests of the European Le Mans Series. And then 1 month later we go to the Algarve International Circuit once again at Portimao for a event that is shared, of course, with the F4 Spanish Championship. Then, on the first weekend of July, it'll be Imola, once more with the European Le Mans Series and the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux. At the end of the month, it'll be to Monza, a fabulous weekend that we share with the Prototipi Cup Europa and the Austria Formula Cup, alongside so many great battles around the Monza circuit. That's going to be a great weekend. Then, a week later, there'll be an event which is yet to be confirmed in terms of destination. After that, Silverstone in September. That'll be alongside the European Le Mans Series once again. Then to the Hungaroring in late October as guests of the TCR Eastern European Touring Car Championship, alongside the Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship, and then the finale at the Circuit de Catalunya alongside F4 Spain, TCR Spain and GB3. James Zagotzi, they're desperately trying to get that car started, but it looks to me as though they're not going to be successful, and so the American is going to have to sit and watch this one from the sidelines. Keanu Alazari starting all the way back in 14th, which now effectively becomes 13th. He can just go and have some fun. The title's already decided. We've got several cars coming back into the pits. What's going on here? Well, this is very bizarre. We've got cars on the starting line, several cars coming into the pit lane. What is going on? No, I've never seen that before. We've got several drivers looking to start this race from the pit lane by the looks of it. Well, that is absolutely bizarre. Tarvanichkul, Elfagali on the front row, then Pradel alone on the second row, and then Lammers, Stuka, Bostangiev, Powell. Who's this that's starting the race from the pit lane? That looks like that's the number 9, isn't it? That looks like Thomas Strauven. Well, we're under starters' orders for the last race of the year. Enzo Tarvanichkul Battles to the first corner, and immediately there's a challenge from Pradel, but Lammers comes around the outside of his teammate and charges forward as Tard van Ichgel beats El Fagali to the first turn, and there's already pressure from Kasper Stuka. He fancies his chances early doors. He's got ahead of Alex Powell, who's up into 6th position. Then Bostanjev, Delanyol, Stefan Aidens and Chu. Powell on the inside line, having to defend his position now from the high tech of Stefan Bostanjev, as Kasper Stuka finally has a chance to go from the podium. So, fascinating situation then from the contenders as Chiano Al-Azari gets out wide. That got a little bit scary for the man from Dubai. And so they work their way further forward as Tard van Ichgel, El Fagali and Lammers is the order on the first lap. Several cars coming through and starting from the pit lane, but it looks as though they've all got under starters orders now. The starting procedure is under investigation, and I can tell you that all 27 cars are out there. The 28th is James Zagotzi. He is not circulating. They have not got him out. And so the American has to sit the last race of the season out. So Powell is now pushing ahead of Stuka. And he's going to try and take on Gianmarco Pradel on this, the first lap. Remember, they can't use the push to pass on the opening lap of the race. So they can only access it until lap 2. So it's just pure slipstream for the moment. As Tard van Ichgel for Thailand leads the way from El Fagali. Then Lammers, Pradel, Powell, Stuka, Bostanjev and Delanyol. Big dives up the inside from a couple of drivers. Already trying their luck in the final race of the season. Good battles there between Stuka and Bostanjev. Stuka holds his nerve. 3 wide as Bart Harrison tries to keep his foot in. Great racing for the man from Nunnington. And as they come through once again, good battles, still in the offing, up against the pit wall. Stuka and Bostanjev really going to task, and it's going to be the Bulgarian who gets through. Great run from Bostanjev, he's up a position. And so the Bulgarian now through into 6th position from Stuka, Delanyol, Stefan Aidens, Perard and Chu. Yellow flag at turn 18, that's the final corner. So someone's had an incident at the final turn, it's Harrison. Harrison's had a moment and spun the car. He's off the road. Can he get going again? Because that is a slightly dangerous position just off the turn on the top of the blind crest. So that could end up being a safety car if he can't get moving. Up the inside, that's one of the Drivexes on the warpath. That's Fiorentino making the bid on the inside of Gino Trappa. Through the chicane, and it's safety car. Safety car as they battle away for position, and that is side by side as the safety car is called between Delanyol and Stefan Aidens. So, who is going to be judged to be the person in front? Well, Bart Harrison can't get moving, he's out of the car, and that is very unfortunate indeed for the British driver, who sadly finishes the season without putting points on the board. And that doesn't really tell you anything about his talents. He's had some amazing performances this year. Don't forget, of course, he managed to put it second on the grid yesterday in time qualifying in the wet conditions. So that tells you quite a lot about his ability. But unfortunately, the racing gods have not been kind to Bart Harrison over this campaign, and so, just like James Zagotzi, he doesn't complete the opening lap of the race. So that means that Tard van Ichgel is your leader from Chris El Fagali and René Lammers. 4th place for Gianmarco Pradel. 5th position is Alex Powell in front of Stefan Bostanjev, and then Kasper Stuka. Yannis Stefan Haydens is in 8th place. Good run so far from the Belgian. And then Heiter Delanyol in front of Rafael Perard. Julian Pu is 11th. Chiano Al-Azari is in 12th already, so he's made up 2 places off the start. Then Ian Eichmans, Filippo Fiorentino, Luca Vizaronu, Gino Trappa, then Gianni Giovanelli, my apologies. Patrick Hosenroder is up to 18th now, from Renzo Barboy and Thomas Strauben. Then Santino Pinetta, ahead of Stylianos Kolovos, Benjamin Beckley and Bianca Bustamante in front of Alcio Felmanetto and Lorenzo Campos. That's all of them. Trappa and Giovanelli are back into the pits. Several of them, of course, started the race from the pit lane, including the number 9 of Thomas Strauben. So he's been able to work his way up to 18th at least. But Trappa and Giovanelli are both into the pits for High-Tech and GRS respectively. So difficult races for those two as they drop now down to 25th and 26th. That's Trappa and Giovanelli. The oldest man in the field, of course, Gianni Giovanelli. 21 years of age from Buenos Aires. Was testing all of last year with the GRS team. There is the other man in the equation. That is Gino Trappa. Another of the very talented Argentines in the field, the rookie, 17 years of age, and the Formula 4 Central European Zone champion last year. And of course represented Argentina in the Motorsport Games back in 2024 in Valencia. But sadly, no joy on this occasion. He goes back out onto the circuit after the damage has been repaired. So hopefully he'll be able to keep going. Giovanelli has also left the pits to rejoin the fray. But it's certainly not a great start to the last race of the Spanish Winter Championship campaign for either Gianni Giovanelli or Gino Trappa. But at least they've gone further in the race than either Bart Harrison or James Zagotzi. Incredibly, the two men that started second and third on the grid in yesterday's first race. So for Enzo Tynvernitschkel, it's a great chance to continue his amazing journey up the ranks of motorsport, one of the latest drivers in the Red Bull Junior fold. Based these days in Marbella in Spain. I've been watching this kid for quite a long time now. First met him in 2020, testing for the Tony Kart factory team before joining them full-time in 2021 over at the Adria karting circuit, which sadly is no longer. But I met a very calm and very quiet young man from Thailand who was very keen to put on a good show, wanted to showcase his talents right from the word go. And now, as the safety car is coming in, after just one lap on the course, we're going to see what this Thai superstar can do. Euro Cup 3 winner last year, of course, won the Junior World Karting Championship back in 2022 at Sarno in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. So he knows how to deal with pressure. He's been signed by Red Bull on purpose. It's no accident he's part of the Red Bull fold. Let's see what he can do. He's still taking his time about this restart, still trying to keep them guessing. Now he's gone for it, and Chris Alfagali is going to have to deal with Lammers and Pradell and Powell on the restart. Green, 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 green here at Motorland Aragon. And Lammers is already defending from Pradell. Looks like a chance for Boston Jev on the inside of Powell into turn one, but he doesn't finish the job. So Powell maintains P5. Tynvernitschkel, Alfagali, Lammers, Pradell, Powell, Boston Jev, Stuka, Stephen Aidens, Delaniel, Perrot and Chu. Then Alazari 12 from Eichmann's, Fiorentino and Vizzarono. Already some challenges. Stephen Aidens, he's going wheel to wheel there with Delaniol. Hector Delaniol fancied his chances to go through. Is that Chuyan Pu through into 10th place ahead of Rafael Parad? Well, certainly Keanu Alazari fancying his chances on the restart. And that's a chance for the man from Dubai to get through around the outside. He got squeezed there by Chu, who lost the place again to Parad. So Rafael Parad still holding his position. Safety car procedure under investigation. No further action to be taken. So Tynvernitschkel leads the way from El Fagali. Lammers, Pradell. This is going to get spicy over the top of the crest. Several drivers already hungry for some moves. But so far the Thai is your leader. Fourth position up for grabs though, because Gianmarco Pradell under big pressure from the man we always used to refer to as the Jamaican sensation. Born in Miami, Florida, raised in Trinidad Tobago. Alex Powell, the cousin of the Olympic sprinter Asafa Powell, just as quick in a straight line. Sixth place for Boston Jev, race winner earlier this season of course. But as they run down the back straight, it's a beautiful concertina line. Tynvernitschkel leads the way. Stephen Aidens is going to make this bid on Stuka. He's got to be careful he doesn't go into the side of Stefan Bostanjev. That was so close on the radius coming out, as Keanu Alazari is getting himself involved in the battles. Just because he's won the championship already, that doesn't mean he is not going to be feisty and tenacious as ever. Up to 9th position then goes Alazari. He's in the points as Stephen Aidens and Stuka go wheel to wheel through turn one. Alazari with a bird's eye view of it all. So through they come again. Alazari tightening up behind Stephen Aidens. Stuka making his bid to go through. Stephen Aidens diving up the inside. Is Alazari going to be ready to pounce on the exit, because both drivers look like they're ticking it out wide? And Alazari finds his way past Stephen Aidens. Now he'll try and get past the Polish star of Kasper Stuka. Delaniol having to battle away there with the hard charging Ian Eichmanns as well. Eichmanns in the orange MP car, desperately trying to work his way back up the order in front of Chu, Vizzarono, Fiorentino and Hosenroder. Straven is 17th by the way. Incident involving 77 and 84 on turn 18 noted. So that is Harrison, and the man who would supposedly hit him, that's Gino Trapper. So there could be an investigation, although Gino Trapper is already down at the back. So if he gets a penalty, he may well feel that that's a bit like, you know, kicking a man in the ribs when he's already on the canvas with a broken nose. So Tarvanitschgul leads Elfagali and Lammers. Bradell, Powell, Bostanjev, Stuka and Alizari. Stephen Aidens and Parade are the last 2 point scorers as it stands. But of course now we're getting into push to pass territory. A few drivers will go for it as Alizari looks to make up another place on Stuka, and he's made it. So that's a nice bit of overtaking from Alizari. Another dive up the inside as well there from Berard, trying to take on Yannis Stephen Aidens, who uses a lot of race circuit and a bit of the runoff area to keep him at bay, but he's not going to be denied. And that is Rafael Berard. Contact! Berard and Stephen Aidens in the final turn, just as what we think might have happened between Harrison and Trapper. And straight into the barriers goes Yannis Stephen Aidens. The Belgian will be absolutely livid. He's going to try and get the car going again. The marshals are there in case it's needed. But Yannis Stephen Aidens will be absolutely fuming at that one. Not a lot of space for the two of them to play with. And the Belgian is spat out to the scenery. But Yannis Stephen Aidens and it looks like both drivers are involved in that one. So both of them are in trouble. Perard is the one trying to recover. Stephen Aidens has got a broken car further up. What's Perard going to do? Is he going to rejoin the race? He's going to go straight back into the pits for repairs. Well, big drama. Alex Garcia is down there in pit lane. What can you tell us about the scene?
Well, Jake, as you've seen, we've just seen the car going behind me. We watched the crash unfold in front of us. But no, I just wanted to quickly clarify, because we had a bit of an odd situation at the start of the race with those 5 cars starting from the pit lane. They had penalties to start from the pit lane, but there is a crucial change this year in regards to this regulation, which means that all the cars which are starting from the pit lane will be allowed to do the formation lap, only that then they will have to come back to the pit lane and start from the pit lane as they did, rather than what used to happen in the past, which was pit lane starters would just stay on the pit lane. So that's just the small but quite important change that we've had for this year, which is why it looked a bit different from those pit lane starters we've seen in the past few years.
Okay, thanks for the clarification there, Alex. We're seeing on the replay on the monitors the collision between Stephen Aidens and Perard. Very hard to say between the two drivers who's at fault there. Perard is the one that got spat out to the scenery on the outside. Stephen Aidens committing around that outside line and getting a broken front suspension for his trouble. So both drivers out of the race on the spot, leaving us with only 25 cars in the race, because Perard did get going again and actually was rather clever, because he drove from his position on the outside of the final turn and drove straight into pit lane to get the car repaired. So he keeps his position on the lead lap. So that's critical. So big moments there for the two of them. But certainly for Rafael Perard and Yannis Stephen Aidens, it is very much game over. Stephen Aidens with a broken car and Perard spinning into the barriers, although incredibly he's able to get the car back to the pits and repaired and get back into the race again by the look of it. So Tarvanitschgul leads the way. Elfagali second for Lebanon, and third for the Netherlands is Brendan Ammers. Kasper Stuka not having the greatest of runs in this new Euro Cup 3 car, is he? He just hasn't quite got used to the differences in the handling. Either that or he hasn't settled into his new team, whatever it is. But Kasper Stuka was third in the main Euro Cup 3 championship last year. And of course also did selected rounds of the Formula Regional European Championship last year, so he surely should be one of the top 5 runners regularly in this competition, but for some reason it just hasn't clicked. I don't know whether it's not a car that he feels comfortable with. He's still trying to gel with the Technicar team, whatever it might be, but the man from Bischkopbala is really struggling. So Stuka currently in 8th place in front of the Brazilian Heiter de Lagnol and the Belgian Ian Eichmans. Unfortunately, the removal of Rafael Perard's car from the fray means that we're going to have only one car to remove. Perard is back in pit lane again. Perard is back in pit lane again, so I've got a feeling that there's a lot more damage to that car than first realised. Yep, he's going to park it. Well, what a shame. They obviously tried to get the car repaired. Perard did a lap behind the safety car to try and figure out if the car was raceable. But it's quite clear that Rafael Perard is game over as well. So both Rafael Perard and Yannis Stephen Haydens out of the race, and that reduces the field to just 24. This is a real race of attrition already, as 4 retirements. Igozzi, who never took the start. Harrison, who went off on the final turn at the end of lap 1 in an incident with Gino Trappa. And now Perard and Stephen Haydens collide with each other and bring out the safety car for the second time. Although the fast-working marshals here at Motorland Aragon mean the safety car is in this lap already. So Enzo Tarvanichkul ready for this restart once again. Will he use exactly the same tactic to Chris Alfagali? Ironically enough, he is in front of a man who used to be part of the Red Bull Junior fold. Tarvanichkul making a very different start this time. And he's already trying to chop away out in front as we go back to race trim. It's green, 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 green for Enzo Tarvanichkul. And he's having a fantastic race up at the sharp end. Battling away as he comes through. No problems at all on the restart for the tie. Enzo Tarvanichkul really enjoying himself. And it's a sensational start for Enzo Tarvanichkul. Alfagali second, Lammers, Pradel, Powell, Bostanjev, Alazari and Stuka. And Stuka is already struggling to hold on in front of Delaniol and Eichmanns. Fiorentino, Chu, Hosenroder, Vizarano and Straven are giving chase. So there's good battles all the way through at the moment. So through they come again. Out of the right-hander and then down the drop of the chicane. Alazari already thinking about the moves. On Stuka has a big dive from Delaniol. He dives in on Stuka and Delaniol makes mincemeat of Stuka on the inside, and that's enough for Eichmanns to get through as well. So poor Kasper Stuka is already down to P10 on this restart. So after the great performance in qualifying this morning, he's just not able to put it together, and Stuka will drop out of the top 10 very quickly at this rate. He's currently in 10th in front of the Brazilian Filippo Fiorentino. Then it'll be the Chinese ace Chuyan Pu and then the Australian Patrick Hosenroder. But how long can he hope to stay? Enzo Tarvanichkul's having a great drive out front. He's managed to pull out enough of a gap on Alfagali that he's not even considering him going down to the braking zone of the back straight. So Tarvanichkul driving beautifully. Second for the Lebanese Alfagali, then Lammers, Pradel, Powell, Alazari, Bostanjev and Eichmanns. There is Eichmanns making his move to fend off from Delaniol, as now Fiorentino fancies his chances on Stuka. It's going to be very tight as they come up the hill once again. But certainly into the first corner, Lammers is thinking about Alfagali for second. As Keanu Alazari, the new champion, trying to get away from Stefan Bostanjev, his teammate in the high-tech operation, although you wouldn't think it based on the way their cars are painted. Bostanjev in the traditional high-tech silver and Keanu Alazari in the pink of the Alpine Academy. Fantastic season this has been so far from Keanu Alazari. Oh, that's Lammers in a second. Lammers has come through past Alfagali. Got through in a second place there, so good work from the Dutchman. Now there's just one car standing in the way of himself and a race victory. Pradel fancying his chances now on Alfagali too, down into the chicane, as the Lebanese driver for Trivex really is having to go defensive. I was going to say a great run from Keanu Alazari for the Alpine Junior team. He is the 6th driver in the Alpine Young Driver program to take a title in junior single-seaters in the last 6 years. The others were Abby Pulling, Nicolas Solov in Spanish F4, Victor Martin in FIA Formula 3, Zhou Guanyu in F3 Asia back in the day, and of course a chap called Oscar Piastri in Formula 2 in 2021. Great racecraft though, as Alazari now senses a chance on Alfagali now that Pradel has got through. Pradel has got past, Powell has got past, so Alfagali is now a sitting target for Alazari. And there's a little bit of an incident between Heiter Delaniol and Kasper Stuka that's now been identified by the race director at turn 9. As Alazari gets the move down on Alfagali. Not good news for the Lebanese driver as he tumbles all the way down from second place to P6. 10 minutes left of the season. Up over the crest. And now Stefan Bostanjev fancies a go at Chris Alfagali. Yellow flags again. And that's at turn 16. Double yellows at turn 16. This is almost certainly going to be a safety car then if it's a double yellow. Looks like there's a big issue that's happened on that part of the course. Although the double yellow is withdrawn very quickly. So whatever it was, I think we're okay without a safety car after all. And still the drivers rage, blow and crack their cheeks as they race around this fantastic circuit. Bostanjev hustling Chris Elfagali. Out through the right-hander. Down to the drop of the chicane. And Enzo Tarvanichkil is still driving a very calculated and controlled race here in front of René Lammers. Pradel, Powell and Alazari are giving chase behind. Then it is Elfagali, Bostanjev, Eichmanns, Delaniol and Fiorentino in the points as Kasper Stucker has rather sadly tumbled all the way to P12. Up and over the rise. Drop down the crest. Tarvanichkil trying to get away from René Lammers. He's only got 9 minutes to sustain this, plus the additional lap after it. But having won a race in Euro Cup 3 last year, he would dearly love to win a race in the Spanish Winter Championship in this new Dallara 326 car. A bit of a run wide there from... Now I'm trying to make out which one that is. That's one of the drivers just in behind Bostanjev. That's going to be Ian Eichmanns. Eichmanns getting it wrong. So Ian Eichmanns going wide, and that's surely going to be enough for Delaniol to challenge him down into the hairpin at turn 16. They're going to be side by side. You can see the dust on Eichmanns' tyres. But he recovers, and onto the position. There's a contact further back. That's Stucker. Stucker has made contact, I think, with Hosenroder. So Stucker and Hosenroder together. There is the Australian trying to recover. So big problems for those two as Delaniol now gets his man. He gets the run on Eichmanns. And Delaniol gets in front. So Heitor Delaniol gets into 8th position then. But it's not going to last long. Eichmanns is going to get him straight back again. Great racing between these two. The Belgian and the Brazilian having a great duel. And this is allowing Filippo Fiorentino, another Brazilian, to go after these two. Well, we're trying to see what's happened with Straven and Hosenroder, because Straven's dropped back, Stucker's dropped back. Straven has recovered. Hosenroder's out of the race. So Hosenroder, too much damage to the front end of the car. So Patrick Hosenroder, who's actually brought the car a long way back offline. Let's see what happened. We're going to see the aftermath of it. Oh, Hosenroder dives alongside Stucker. And Stucker got pitched there, slightly up in the air. Sadly, Hosenroder's car damaged. It's a bit of a come down from what happened in Formula 3 last week in Australia. What a shame. So Hosenroder out of the race, but I think he is actually in a safe vantage point. Yes, car will stay at current position till end of session. No safety car required. So we're back into race action at front. Lammers ahead of Pradel. Pradel really trying to close in on his teammate now. Lammers does not have the legs on time, but it's go. Pradel absolutely going for it on his teammate. No love lost between these two. Excellent racecraft. And Lammers is going to hold on in front of Gianmarco Pradel. So Powell is P4. Then Alazari, Elfagali, Bostanjev, Eichmanns, Delaniol and Fiorentino. 6.5 minutes left of the season. Into turn 1. Alazari going after the move on Alex Powell. Through they come again. Tarvanichkil, Lammers, Pradel, Powell, Alazari. Great run so far from the boy from Dubai, who has made this his first single-seater championship campaign victory. Behind them, Elfagali and Bostanjev, then Eichmanns, Delaniol, Fiorentino and Chuyan Pu. Great work so far, and fantastic battling all the way. But Enzo Tarvanichkil has a 1.3 second advantage over René Lammers. Excellent performance thus far. Pradel 3rd position, Alex Powell is 4th. In front of Keanu Alazari. No, he's not. Powell is behind him now. So Alazari's got ahead. Alazari into 4th position, past Powell. I missed that. I was looking at the timing screen at exactly the wrong moment. And into the pits. Who is that that's retiring from the race? That is Kasper Stucker. The damage is too severe after his contact with Patrick Hosenroder. So Stucker is out of the race. That means we're down to just 22 cars now. And the last of those, sadly, is the Belgian Thomas Straven as Powell runs wide out of the penultimate run to the hairpin. And another run wide behind, that's Delaniol. Drivers are really struggling for grip here. I wonder if it's the crosswinds on that far side of the course, as now Powell is really having to work hard to defend from El Faghali. El Faghali around the outside at 16. Powell doesn't give him any room at all. He doesn't have to, of course. So El Faghali still trying to battle the way through. And as they continue, it is going to be tight between these two to the finish line. Powell in P5, El Faghali in 6th. Lammers 2nd, Pradell, Al-Azhari, Powell and El Faghali. 7th is Bostanjev from Eichmanns, Delaniol and Fiorentino. Fastest lap of the race comes from the race leader, Enzo Tarvanichkul, a 1:49.661. But El Faghali is not done with Alex Powell yet. He really wants to come through. Powell nearly losing the front end of the car big time as it washes out over the crest. So Pradell right in behind Lammers. El Faghali tries again. Very difficult to find a way to get past the American up front. Alex Powell still in 5th position. The boy from Miami holding on to it. Drops down through the left-hander of the chicane, and El Faghali's being caught by Bostanjev as well in the high-tech. So he's got to keep his wits about him. As meanwhile, Lammers and Pradell are still dueling over that 2nd place. Pradell really wants to get past the young whippersnapper. And Keanu Al-Azhari in 4th place. He's just having fun in 4th. He doesn't have to worry about overtaking anybody. He's got more points on the board than anybody else. He can't be caught in the championship. He's already won the title. Is that a problem developing for Pradell? There was a big puff of smoke coming from the back of the car there. I wonder if that was just a little bit of dust coming from the circuit, or whether that was actually a problem for Pradell. It didn't look right to me, but whatever it is, Pradell is still going strong. And Enzo Tarvanichkul is almost 2 seconds clear now of René Lammers, with 3 minutes left of the race and the Spanish Winter Championship 2026. And what a way to end it for Enzo Tarvanichkul. The Thai is having a beautiful race in front of the Dutchman René Lammers and the Australian Gianmarco Pradell. 13 laps completed. I think we've only got time for about 3 more. Maybe just 4 more. Depends on what happens in those 3 to 4 laps, of course. But certainly Enzo Tarvanichkul enjoying himself from Lammers, Pradell and Al-Azhari. And up front, the top 4 are looking quite tame now. It's about the tamest a top 4 has looked in the Euro Cup 3 category with these new Dallara 326 cars this season. Fair enough, we'll look to the guys behind, because Powell and El Faghali are still snapping at each other's heels. Here comes El Faghali for another go at Powell, out through the right-hander. Bostanjev is being caught now by the Belgian Ian Eichmanns, who's got his rhythm back. Dropping down through the chicane. And still, El Faghali hustles Alex Powell through every apex, through every turn. It's going to be quite an exciting duel as they continue making waves. But Tarvanichkul working his way over the crest, yet again out front, 1.4 seconds away from Lammers. So Lammers has definitely found some time to close up on Tarvanichkul. But has he got enough time to make a proper challenge to him? Well, Bostanjev is going after Eichmanns. Possible overtaking under safety car is being investigated here for Heiter Delaniol making the move on Yannis Stephen Haydens, or vice versa. Turn 9. Possible overtaking under safety car is being investigated, so that could come back to bite either Yannis Stephen Haydens, who's already out of the race, or Heiter Delaniol, who's in the points. So still a good battle developing and brewing here as Keanu Al-Azhari fancies to get one final podium. Incredible. In 9 races, Keanu Al-Azhari has not finished a race outside the top 5. Where is he now? P4, looking at a podium. 2 laps to go. And Gianmarco Pradell will be working very hard indeed to keep the new champion behind him. It's just been bags of confidence since the start of the season for the man who is born and raised in Dubai, lives on the Palm Jumeirah. It's going to be quite tricky for them to get back home with things that are going on, but they do have bases in Europe as well, so if they need to stay, they can stay. But for the moment, Keanu Al-Azhari just enjoying his time with his family, enjoying being out here, sealing the deal for the championship, and enjoying going after Gianmarco Pradell. No pressure. He's already won the title, and in 7 weeks' time, he gets to start the new Euro Cup 3 season as the favourite. So Powell now has stretched his legs a little bit to Al-Faghali. He's pulled out a few car lengths. Time has run down to 0. So surely it's now going to be about Enzo Tarvanichko just controlling the pace to the end. Lammers in second, Pradell in third, and Al-Azhari in fourth. Through the chicane, this is where Al-Azhari's really strong. The car is so dialed in. He's full of confidence. Tarvanichko's trying to break the toe of Lammers. He's not confident that Lammers isn't going to catch him before the end. And so down the back straight, Tarvanichko trying to break that toe. Lammers in second, Pradell third, Al-Azhari catching. All the time, but not close enough to make the move. Meanwhile, Eichmans might be close enough to make the move on Bostanjev. But the Bulgarian covers the inside apex well at the back straight. So that'll do nicely. Final lap, 1 lap to go here. And it's all going to come down to the calm, patient discipline of the man who leads the way. Enzo Tarvanichko, pole position in qualifying, has led every lap, has not even looked like he's going to be challenged at any point in this race. So can he finish the job? He's on his 16th and what will be his final lap. Still Eichmans putting pressure on Stefan Bostanjev. Up the crest again. The Bulgarian taking heat from the Belgian. And Eichmans wants to try and get one final word. It looks like a 5-second penalty is coming the way of Stefan Bostanjev. And also, I'm afraid to say, there's also going to be one for Alex Powell. So I'm afraid that Alex Powell is going to be getting himself a 5-second penalty. And they're not the only ones, because I think Fiorentino is going to get one. Kolovos is going to get 10 seconds, sadly, as is Giovanelli. While Feldman, Barboy and Bustamante will all get 5. So that is very tricky stuff. But then when you consider how tricky it's been in the wind conditions here, it's very strong winds indeed. Anywhere between 55 and 65 kilometers an hour winds. Everyone is going to find it tricky. But the man who's made it look like child's play from the front is the man who is based nowadays in Marbella in Spain. The Red Bull Junior. Oh, in the background, Al-Faghali stopping. Al-Faghali stopped on the circuit. That's disastrous for Al-Faghali. He will not score points. He will not finish strong in the last race of the year. That's a real shame. As Al-Azhari tries one final trick on Gianmarco Pradell. But Pradell looks like he's got it covered. So out of the final turn comes the Red Bull Junior from Thailand. It's a brilliant end to the Spanish Winter Championship. Enzo Tarvanichko wins the last race of the season at Motorland Aragon. Lammers is second. Pradell is third. And Chiano Al-Azhari finishes the season having never yet finished outside the top 5. The clean sweep of top 5 finishes is complete. Well, what a sensational season campaign it has been from the man in pink, Chiano Al-Azhari. He's denied the podium in the last race of the year, but he couldn't care squat. Enzo Tarvanichko keeps the Thai fans happy, watching back home in Bangkok, 8:22 p.m. where they are. And they are tucking into their pad thai in celebration of Enzo Tarvanichko, their next boy wonder. Isn't it amazing? You wait decades for a superstar driver from Thailand, and now there's a whole bunch of them. Alex Albon in Formula One, and then of course we've got Enzo Tarvanichko here. Up the ranks, we've also got some amazing talent in the Grand Prix field, of course. Fantastic performances from many drivers in the field. They've all been fantastic to work their way forward. And there's so many drivers working their way through the pack these days. Great to see so many great drivers. Tazinder Puvazak, of course, he's also working his way up the ladder for Thailand. But it's wonderful to see the Red Bull Junior deliver on the promise. World Junior Karting Champion, and now a Euro Cup 3 race winner in 2026 in the last race of the Spanish Winter Championship. That sets him up nicely for more. The rookie winner for the last time is the one and only René Lammers. There's Chris Al-Faghali, stopped out on the circuit on the last lap. Misery for him. No points in the last race of the year. And that elevates Eichmans to 5th in front of Alex Powell, who takes his 5-second penalty. Lammers is actually given his 5-second penalty as well. Lammers got a 5-second penalty for track limits too. And so that means that Chiano Al-Azhari will score points will score a podium, I should say. So Lammers, who was a second behind Todd Van Ichkel on the road, he had one final track limits infringement. And I'm afraid that means Lammers will be off the podium. He will still win the rookie race in front of Eichmanns and Powell, but he will not be second. Pradell will be second, and Keanu Alazari will be elevated to third. He finishes the season on the podium. That's bad news for Lammers, but it's great news for Keanu Alazari. Behind Alex Powell are Heiter Delanyol, Chuyan Pu, Lorenzo Campos, and the very last man to score a point in the Spanish Winter Championship 2026 is the Argentine Gino Trappa. Well, René Lammers is coming and parking his car in second place. He's not prepared to believe that he's not going to be second. So that's going to cause a bit of an issue. René Lammers is adamant. I was second place. You weren't, I'm afraid, because you got a 5-second penalty for track limits. But he does win the rookie race, whatever happens, because he was fourth place in the end. So Pradell lines up in second behind René Lammers, who may or may not know that he has a 5-second penalty for track limits infringement. It came so late. So second is Pradell, third is Alazari. Lammers wins the rookie race in fourth. There is your new champion. He was awarded that yesterday, of course, after a fantastic season that he's now completed, never outside the top 5. But Enzo Tan Van Ichkel for Thailand gets the job done, and Keanu Alazari applauds him. They were in the same junior team together in karting for the Tony Kart Factory team when Keanu Alazari was a senior and Enzo Tan Van Ichkel was the junior world champion. So they know each other very well, and I'm sure Keanu will be very much in tribute to Enzo Tan Van Ichkel for his great drive up front. Alazari is third, Pradell is second, Tan Van Ichkel is the winner in the last race of the season in the Spanish Winter Championship. A fantastic end to the season then for Enzo Tan Van Ichkel. What a great drive. You've got a feel for René Lammers, second on the road, but that 5-second time penalty will drop him to fourth. He still wins the rookie race, but he won't be going to 2 podiums. He'll just be going to 1. Lammers will be ahead of Eichmanns and Powell in the rookie ranks. Tan Van Ichkel takes the win in front of Pradell and Keanu Alazari. And so, a very spirited end to the season for Campos and for the Red Bull Junior team, because their boy Enzo Tan Van Ichkel gives them something to smile about. It was a tough day for Red Bull in China, not at Aragon, as Enzo Tan Van Ichkel colours himself in glory in the Spanish Winter Championship here in Euro Cup 3. A fabulous final race of the season. There is Gianmarco Pradell now being put into his correct position, P2, after his teammate René Lammers was sadly given a 5-second track limits infringement penalty. But he still wins the rookie race in P4. So Pradell is second, Alazari is third, and Enzo Tan Van Ichkel, the last winner of the campaign. And the Thai driver gets to put himself into a very spirited position. That is his second win as a Euro Cup 3 driver, continuing his fantastic performance after last year in the main championship. Alex Garcia is down there with our last winner of the season for Thailand, Enzo Tan Van Ichkel.
Our last winner of the Spanish Winter Championship 2026, Enzo Tan Van Ichkel. That was very nice to watch. And I have to say, Enzo, how do you manage to have those comebacks like yesterday? And how can we replicate that so that it almost always looks like today?
Well, obviously the quali is a big part of it. We've struggled to execute properly in quali, but today it's been quite good. Since the morning, everything felt really good in the car. I was happy with the performance window, and yeah, obviously we end up with a pretty good race.
Of course, racing is never easy, but when you've done P21 to P5, does this feel a little bit easier?
No, I mean, it's very different because when you come from the back, you have to get through a lot of people, and when you start at the front, it's more about controlling the pace, controlling yourself, not doing any silly mistakes. So it's very different. It's definitely hard from both sides, but much better to go from first and then finish first.
Does this give you a lot more confidence for the regular season later on?
I mean, at the end, it's all about finding things about the car, performance in the car, and myself. So it's always nice to win, but we have to keep working hard and trying to find more performance to, even on a bad day, be at least in the top 5.
All right, Enzo, time to enjoy the win. Congratulations, and we see you in just a few weeks or a few months of the regular season.
Thank you so much.
So
It's
very
wonderful.
calm, very
Really,
collected
really
race
wonderful.
winner today here. It is fantastic to watch him, Jake, yes.
I've been watching Alex. I've been watching Enzo Tarmanishkil now since he was about 12 years old in the world of karting, and to see him come through the ranks and get himself into that position is really, really amazing. And he's just growing more and more in stature all the time. We've talked about Keanu Alazari being the complete driver of this season, never outside the top 5. But Enzo is coming quickly. He's going to be pushing very hard for that title fight. When we get to Paul Ricard, he's going to be right up there challenging for wins every time.
I can't wait for Paul Ricard, Jake. We have, of course, Keanu Alazari. We have Enzo Tarmanishkil. We have James Egozzi. We have all those rookies like, of course, René Lammers, like Thomas Strauben. We have Ian Aikman. We have so many drivers that could do something special this year. So I think we're on for another cracking year, because with so many drivers who are quick, who are talented, I think there's nothing better than that.
It's wonderful to see a young Thai driver come through the ranks as well. There's been quite a plethora of them recently, following in the wheel tracks of Alex Albon. We've got Tazinder Pivazak, who also came through our paddock at one point. And of course now with Enzo Tarmanishkil working his way forward as well, it's great to see that there's a real strength and depth from the Asian pedigree to work their way through up to the Grand Prix grid. And certainly getting used to this car has not been difficult for Enzo Tarmanishkil. For my money now, Alex, we've got at least 5 drivers in the fight for the main championship, because we've got Keanu Alazari, obviously a contender as the champion. James Egozzi, who sadly didn't get to show it in the last race of the season. We've got Gianmarco Pradell. We can't count him out. The Australian's got great consistency in their MP. When Alex Powell is on song, he's very, very strong and a great contender. And of course, we've got to consider René Lammers. Despite his track limits penalty, he's still going to be fighting for the race victories. I'm now thinking of adding the 6th, Enzo Tarmanishkil, after his brilliant performance here at Aragon, both in the races yesterday and today, 2 very different types of drive. For me, that's half a dozen drivers who could win this title.
Exactly, and if you remember, last year we had so many different winners. In fact, last year we had the record number of race winners in Euro Cup 3 in a single season. I reckon that this year we could potentially beat that, not just because we have a few more races in the end, but because we will have so many candidates for that. So this just goes to show you how high the level is, and winning it won't come easy. So any driver who ends up being the champion can look at himself in the mirror and say, well, I did something pretty special.
It's a great result for the junior drivers of Formula One programs. Obviously today, Enzo Tarmanishkil, Red Bull Junior, and Keanu Alazari, the Alpine young gun. It's a phenomenal season. I mean, when you think we've had 9 races in very different circumstances for those 9 races, and yet through every single race, Keanu Alazari, we do run out of superlatives for him. He has not finished a single race this year outside the top 5. That is extraordinary when you consider how low on the grid he has started in certain races, particularly this one. 14th on the grid he started and worked his way through to 3rd position. The man is unbeatable at the moment.
And you have to consider, of course, that some of those races where he started behind might have not been the case today, but some of those were not necessarily from his own or the team's mistakes. Indeed, if you just finish very high on qualifying 1, you have that sprint race where you finish, where you start later or further down the grid. And those are shorter. And sometimes safety cars make those short races even shorter. And that hasn't stopped him from being in that top 5, which shows that he's just in that sweet spot on his career where he just seems to be unable to do anything wrong. He just continues to deliver race after race after race. And when a driver is in this kind of situation, it's not so much of a question of what they're going to do well. It's just a matter of how long are they going to keep it up for.
That's so true. I reckon going into this main body of the championship, we've got 7 weeks to wait, annoyingly and frustratingly, until we've got the first race weekend of the season. But when you consider how busy the calendar is going to be, we've got so many great Grand Prix circuits on that calendar. It's going to be amazing to watch these drivers battle week in, week out for supremacy. We've got some amazing race circuits coming up. Silverstone, Hungaroring, Paul Ricard, Portimao, Monza, Imola, Barcelona. It's going to be such a busy season with so much to do, and all of these drivers are going to learn so many great skills ahead of the Euro Cup 3 season. So let's talk our way through the podium ceremony, the last one of the E3 category of the Spanish Winter Championship. It's a win in the team's ranking for Campos Racing. They get the team's trophy, and what a great result for Campos to bow out on Alex as the winners of the last race of the year.
Exactly, one of the big teams, of course, here in Euro Cup 3, one of the two main contenders over the past few years, that is, of course, together with MP Motorsport and their respective secondary squads. But you have to keep in mind that we have also had High-Tech in the mix this year. We have also had Palo Motorsport showing that they can join the ranks of the top front runners. So from two squads we go to four, sorry. That is pretty exciting, and with a new car, who knows, there could be an extra bit of excitement from another team that suddenly finds something special. And I think that's what makes these new regulations, or in this case new car, extra spicy, extra interesting, because you need to learn them throughout the season, and things can change from one race to another. I really look forward to that.
So do we. We come back together, Alex, in 4 weeks for Spanish. We'll come back to Euro Cup 3 in 7 weeks' time. Thanks for your company.
Looking forward to it, Jake.
A nation that's known for its boxing, its martial arts, and its jet ski racing world champions of late. Well, there's a potential motorsports world champion in the offing with a drive like that from Enzo Tarmanichkul. What a great way to end the season. Campos lifts their final trophy of the Spanish Winter Championship season. A great start to the 2026 campaign. They've got 7 weeks to get ready for the first round of the championship at Paul Ricard in Euro Cup 3. A perfect season, you could say, from Chiara Malazzari. 9 races, top 5 finishes in every single one. The undisputed, undefeated champion. Second place, great result from Gianmarco Pradel. I expect big things from him in 2026. He could challenge for the Euro Cup 3 title. But it's wonderful to see the fabulous young man, Enzo Tarmanichkul, 18 years of age later, 17 years of age. He's only just turned 17 and still with so much to do. Enzo Tarmanichkul. The opportunities just keep flowing in for the man from Thailand, and he's going to have a very exciting season ahead of him. We've got 7 weeks now to wait until Euro Cup 3 kicks off. But if you've enjoyed the Spanish Winter Championships, we are so grateful for your company. Thank you so much for being with us. You can like, subscribe and hit the notification bell on our social media channels for more great roundups and responses from these amazing races. But as the boys from Euro Cup 3 get busy with the fizzy here at Aragon, our attention turns to the F4 Spanish Championship 4 weeks from now, live and exclusive on the YouTube channel. Go and like and subscribe to it, you won't miss a thing. And in 7 weeks, we'll do it all again for Euro Cup 3 in 2026 as well. From me, Jake Sanson, from my colleague Alex Garcia and the rest of the team at The Killite, we are so grateful for your patronage and your support. Thank you for everything that you've given us over these amazing weeks. We have 2 champions. In E4, Noah Montero of Portugal. In Euro Cup 3, Keanu Al-Azari of the United Arab Emirates. And guess what, folks? We've only just started in 2026. There's so much more to come from F4 Spain and Euro Cup 3 in the main body of the season. From all of us here, gracias, mi amigos. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in a few weeks' time when Euro Cup 3 and F4 Spain return.
back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never ever.
¿Servilleta, un papel o algo tenéis?
Mira, aquí, te cojo una.
Ah, sí,
Con cri...
Haurà anat a buscar...
Sí, però que ens hem creuat, saps?